Welcome to another episode of The Consulting Curve, the community approach to clients and consulting. Brought to you each week by BizDrivers.biz, founded by Peter Selby, a trusted profit and growth advisory to companies and consultants around the world. Tune in each week and learn how you can take that journey from. This is Kevin Pruitt. I want to welcome you to the pilot episode of The Consulting Curve with my good friend, Peter Selby. Peter, thank you for joining us on The Consulting Curve.
Glad to be here. Really looking forward to this series, actually.
We were just talking off yeah, for sure. We were talking before we hit the big red record button and just looking at some notes and what a journey we're going to take in the next few weeks, few months. But to set the stage a little bit, the Consulting Curve, the community approach to clients and consulting. Peter, talk a little bit about kind of the genesis of the podcasting and maybe just the idea behind it.
Sure. Yeah. Look, the name, the Consulting Curve, really comes from the learning curve that goes as people move into the advisory world, and it's a lot harder than people think. And we certainly, we have a whole section of our advisory business set up to help people do this, and that's there because the journey is quite difficult, and especially we specialize really helping executives, and executives come out of their roles after years in corporations, quite often huge networks that come with being successful over those times, and then walk into this world where they have no resources at their disposal. The people that used to do things and that could be delegated to aren't there. And this huge network is actually a lot smaller than people realize. If we think of the Pareto law, the 80-20 rule that's in everything, only 20% of their network are ever going to do business with them, and it'll be 80% of the benefits. So people's networks run out much, much quicker. So, with all that going on, and then you see in the news in the US, in Australia, in the UK, is the great resignation. Everybody's rethinking their careers post-COVID. And is there a better way? Do I really need to go and have this high pressure role in a corporate environment? I've kind of, having the time I've had at home has made me rethink what I need in life, and just incredible numbers of people resigning, people sending up as consultants. It's the whole landscape's changing. So the thinking here was to discuss some of these topics in a live situation like this, help people along the journey. We'll get some people maybe come along and give their stories of how they've transitioned, and it should be a great topic. I mean, it's huge.
It certainly is. And what's interesting is that you kind of set the stage for what we wanted to talk about today. I mean, what a great segue, talking about the great resignation, where, what does it look like? What does advising in the new economy really look like? When you hear those words, what comes to mind?
Interestingly, companies are more connected than they've ever been. So if you think of the new economy, what we're really talking about is, I guess, the fourth industrial revolution, this big data driven connected markets where things are moving much, much faster than they ever were before. Companies have to be more agile. Companies really need to be on their toes to stay ahead of the competition in their markets. There's more disruption than ever before. So companies are looking for deeper insights as a result of that. And consultants then have to be able to move with all this. And of course, that's another space that's moved very quickly. So, the things that springs to mind for me is, as an advisor, you need to have your finger on the pulse a lot more than you ever did before. You need to have more customer solutions than ever before. Customers are really looking for demonstrated processes, deeper IP. They're trying to get deeper insights and trying to move faster. And then you compound that with the fact that platforms like LinkedIn have kind of commoditized the consulting space. It's barrier so low. So whilst there's more companies than ever before looking for help, there are more people to provide it, and you need to really stand out from the crowd. So it's quite a different environment.
I mean, I think back at, when I studied economics in university, I mean, there was always this kind of push-pull, the supply side, the demand side. When you think of consulting in this new economy, what is kind of the supply side and demand side? How are they kind of inversely related when you're talking about, more companies need help, but yet there's more consultants out there? Is it just an equal rise, or you kind of see it ebb and flow?
I think it does ebb and flow for sure, but I think right now the power is with the buyer, right? So, in this connected world, buyers have more buying power than they've ever had because they're connected to so many. I mean, people can make huge buying decisions with the press of a button on their mobile phone while they're sipping their favorite latte in a cafe somewhere, so it's a different environment from that perspective. And the thing is, with advisory services, clients are looking for a lot more depth, I guess, and a lot more innovation in solutions. They're looking for commercial innovation. They're looking, the whole idea of just turning up and charging a day rate and hoping you can compete with everybody else are really over. And I guess the industry is just waking up to that fact. So there's a lot of, whilst I say there's a lot more consultants sort of registered now than ever in history before, a lot of them are also struggling because they can't differentiate.
It's like what the old adage, the starving artist, when they're just artists everywhere, but nobody's actually earning a living type thing. But when you talked about companies, needing those types of insights, they actually, I mean, everything is kind of this quantum speed, that the speed of business has changed rapidly, even in the midst of COVID. I mean, the information they need, how rapidly they need it, the accurate data, that they need at their fingertips. So how do you see the advising space or the consultancy space? How do you separate yourself, I guess, as a consultant in this kind of rapidly changing environment?
I think the answer to that is you don't. In fact, you embrace it even more. One of there's an interesting, I mean, the consulting industry has a limited amount of trust in it, and that's come from the old model where the idea, especially some of the larger consulting companies, is keeping their customers very separate. The process they take you through is almost a secret until they get there, and it's got this black box element to it. And I think that's disappearing. So you need to be able to embrace customer communities in a consulting company, which is a new idea, I think, for the industry. We've been doing it quite a while, actually. We've had all our customers connected for a long time, and they gain a lot of benefit from talking to each other, but you've got to have a very open format of business to be able to embrace that. But I think it's going to become a requirement rather than a standout, so that they're the sort of changes as businesses become more connected. I think the people that serve them need to become more connected with their customers. Does that make sense? I mean, it's
absolutely. I mean, I wanted to ask you about that idea of this kind of open-handed community that you have, that that some people, I think, would be threatened by that, or they may see that like, I don't want to pull back the curtains, so you might see behind the workings of the inner workings of the Wizard of Oz here, so to speak. But so what are the benefits, and what have you seen as a benefit to this open community, this real sharing economy?
Look, I think there's two communities, there's two approaches to community that we really promote. There's the community of advisory services in themselves. So certainly the people that we have a service called the Executive Advisory Board that is a collection of advisors that work together for greater good. So there's a community of supply and therefore a community of pipeline as well of opportunity. But on the reverse side of that coin, the customers get a lot from being connected because they've got consistent access to best practice. They can see how other companies are doing things. We actually have a platform for it, so they can trade with each other on the platform as well and promote each other's services. They give each other discounts, all sorts of things. But the benefits really, apart from I guess encouraging trade, is is the fact that there's this 24/7 access to different companies around the world doing different things, different best practices. There's always a bunch of advisors in the background that people can touch and ask questions to, share documents, all that sort of stuff. But that kind of environment, if you think about it in corporations, they've been doing it for donkey's years. So corporates have had, customer product communities for a long, long time, and it's just never spread into the advisory market. And I think from the reasons you've just said, there's this secretive element to it that feels threatened by opening it all up. But we've definitely seen customers really benefit from it.
I mean, you mentioned the idea that, companies are demanding more. They're demanding better services, more efficient, more effective, just kind of more all the time. But I think this open community also kind of feeds that in a good way too, that it exposes them to, it's almost like we're in this together, we're walking in this with you, instead of this kind of ethereal, mysterious advisor, this consultant that shows up and hides in a boardroom or a closet for a week and then comes out with this magic solution that nobody knows if it's going to work or not, so to speak. But yeah, talk about that a little bit, about just how the community feeds the demand of companies to have, to increase your service.
Yeah, look, one of the big benefits they get from this, if you think about a particular piece of intellectual property or process that we may have that we take a customer through to solve a certain type of problem, whilst that methodology is the same, no matter where we take it, how it's applied is very different. Of course, the outputs from it are very different depending on what that company's doing. So the other dimension that customers get is they can see how this particular piece of intellectual property works in a completely different type of business. So we're about to do, let's say, I don't know, we're going to optimize our supply chain in our company. But hey, look, we can see where this is being done with another customer in a completely different business, and that had this particular output. So it stretches the ability to see what you can do with a particular solution. And interestingly, when we set up as a company back in 2008, and the first few years was all around developing IP, we realized quite a piece that just relying on our experience wasn't enough. Customers need a process to go through. They need something that's demonstrated that will work, that they can be, there's a roadmap through to an end position. But as soon as we then connected all the customers, and that was more recently, probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, we started doing that. What we hadn't foreseen was people then seeing, well, this company that does something completely different to us has had this result by using this tool. We haven't thought of that result, so we want to use that tool in a different way than we were thinking, and oh wow, it's a different insight. Now, when companies are looking for more and more insights more rapidly, of course, that feeds that very well. But it's all easy to sit here afterwards and say this is the benefits they're getting. We hadn't foreseen all of this up front. We just thought it was a good idea to connect our customers more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I see two huge benefits, and they kind of work in tandem with each other. It's not just the kind of, the client can actually see the solution, but it's not just you telling them, it's also the other clients that are kind of verifying that, yeah, this was true. And you can see, as we're in community with you, you can see the benefits and how our business was changed. And it's just not the consultants, just not taking your word for it that happened.
Yeah, look, that's right. And interestingly, that's really only one element to it. The other side that's evolved, because we put this onto a private platform, if you like, so there's this secure environment, we see customers actually trading with each other on it. So they'll give other customer members discounts to try and promote growth as well. So, and then they can apply those tools in that environment. So yeah, it kind of, the whole thing feeds itself. And it's whilst it's a bit unusual at the moment, I honestly think if you're trying to step in the advisory world and certainly build a resilient advisory practice, you're going to have to at some point connect your customers. Just everything is connected now.
Right. If you don't, they will. and they will connect without you in the equation.
Exactly.
They will connect with someone for sure, for sure.
And if they can't connect through you, they will get frustrated and find an advisor they can do that with, you know.
Absolutely.
So I think that change is there to stay in the market.
Absolutely. Well, Peter, I appreciate you taking the time just to kind of lay a great foundation for this podcast series. And you know, we've got so many things. I mean, you know, from sales to business practices to, you know, just process and community that we're going to talk about in subsequent episodes. But Peter, I really appreciate you just kind of laying this, like I said, this foundation of, you know, advising in the new economy. What does it look like? And I'm really looking forward to our audience really hearing exactly what's going on, but, you know, behind the curtain of biz drivers. So Peter, thanks again, and we'll speak soon.
Excellent. Thanks, Kevin, for your time, and really looking forward to this. It's going to be fun.